Welcome back to the shop. Well, I've gotten through the process of removing and replacing the electrolytic capacitors in the Corvette radio. If you remember back a couple episodes ago, I found that I had a parasitic loss, and I also noticed that the sound wasn't all that great on the radio. So I wanted to make some improvements. I think I've accomplished some of the goals, but I've also uncovered some new things that I'm going to have to learn about and work on. So I'm going to show you how I replaced the electrolytic capacitors. I did some initial testing, I did some final testing, and you can see what the results were. I'm absolutely open and looking for feedback and how I might be able to progress further. I'm also doing some research on how to do that. And I think I've come down to I need to do some adjustments on some of the coils and tune things in. So there may be other things I need to look at, and just to verify orientation of all of the capacitors to make sure I didn't make a stupid mistake. In any case, take a look. I hope this is helpful for you and that you learn something from it, and enjoy. Okay, so this is on the AM setting, and you can hear the buzz. I'm going to turn it up a little bit. And that's the way it is on the entire dial. I'm not getting anything on the AM setting. Now when I switch it over to FM, it's a little bit better. And if I get, there's one station here.
Craft cocktails, one of the bourbons on the show.
So that's not bad, but still a bit of a fuzz. So a little tinny. Anyways, we'll see what it looks like or sounds like after this. All right, before we open this up and take a look on the inside, just to take a look at the outside first to see if there's any sort of markings on it. There's some part numbers on the bezel here. On the top, there are no indications or markings on it. If I turn it over to the side here, looks like maybe some inspection marks on the side. On the right side. On the left side, we've got a label, and let's see what that says. It says service model 21V, and if I look really close at this, I think it's a 3 at the end. It's either a 3 or a 2, but that looks like a 3, which would indicate the mono radio, not the stereo radio. It's got the product number on it, serial number, so that's all there. Let's see. On the bottom, it's got some reverse rating on it. Something about the speaker, I guess. I'll have to look at this a little bit more. And let's see, anything, I think that was it. Nothing on the back as far as markings. All right, to get this apart, I'm going to use a socket here. I think it's probably, I got a 1/4-inch socket, but it may be something less than that, but I don't have that in my arsenal. So to get this apart, I'll unscrew the corners here. I got one Phillips head. I'm not sure what that's there for, but okay. And then I've got, so I'll have to take it apart all along the edges here. It doesn't look like there's anything that's welded or spot welded or soldered in place. So I'll open it up and lay it out, and you'll be able to see it in a few minutes here. All right, so here's the top of the radio with the top taken off, and we've got several circuit boards in here, and yeah, it looks like the looks like the Sam's diagram here. So I can start getting oriented to what all the parts are in here. I've got, again, on the Sam's Photofact, you can see this circuit board here is this one. So I've got a pretty good roadmap of what I need to do, and all of the capacitors are noted in here. So I'll be able to get through this, I think. To get this circuit board off, I see that there is one screw up here in the corner, and I don't see any others in there. Before I start taking all that apart, though, I'm going to take the bottom of the radio off as well and see what that looks like, just to explore. I'm going to also put all of the screws I took off back into their respective holes so that I don't lose them. That would be a bad thing I've found in my history. So I'll take the bottom off, and I'll show you the inside of that as well. So I was playing around with this a little bit. I'm a mechanical guy. I get excited about this type of stuff. So here all I'm doing is turning the dial here, and you can see how the selector works. It's pretty cool. Look at this. It's just basically on a worm gear down at the bottom. You can see the gear turning here in the center, and it's basically just making the dial. This is how the dial is selected. It's like a 4-bar mechanism. Pretty cool. Alright, so taking this circuit board out is not going to be simple. I thought it was just one screw to take out, but there are some that I didn't realize were actually soldered in. So there's one that's soldered in there. Got another one soldered in here. I've got, oh boy, where else? There's another one here. Okay, here's the bottom panel off, complete with 51 years of fuzz and dirt. So on this side, this is upside down, but this is the connection for the radio harness, and there's 3 wires that come in here. There's so the input wires. There's a black wire, which is the ground, and that's the middle one here. And then there is a yellow wire, which is the radio feed, and that goes to this terminal, actually down here. And then there's a third terminal, which is a gray wire coming in as an input, and that is to power the lights, the instrument lights. So, and that would be this light here. So the yellow wire hooks into this brown lead, and that brown lead goes all the way to basically the on-off switch for the radio. So that kind of makes sense. Okay, I can see I got one of my capacitors that I need to replace, and this is a 3 capacitor can. That's the biggest one. That's got up to 1,000 volts in it. So I want to be real, or no, so about 1,000 microfarads, maybe 400 volts. So I want to be careful with that one and discharge it before I actually start working with it. So that's that side. So I'm going to need to see. I got another board here that I need to deal with, I think. In any case, I think I'm going to take this side off. So I got a couple of screws I've got to get out, but I'll take this side off, and I don't think I've got to come in at all on this side, so I'm going to leave this one in place to give it some sort of structure so things don't come apart. So I'll remove this one, and then I'll show you what that looks like. Well, I think I've got some of the disassembly figured out. It wasn't exactly as I thought it was, being a entirely complete unit, but I was able to took the front corner apart here, took the front corner apart here, and by doing that I can get to some of the components. So I can get to let's see if I can get to it, that capacitor right there, and there's another capacitor here. They're supposed to be so that one there, the silver one, they're supposed to be the same size according to the SAM Photofact, but they don't look the same. But I'm going to go with the Photofact. I'll work it. Maybe they're just different designs, but for size. But in order to get these out, I think the approach I'm going to take is go to the back of the board and desolder the back and pull it out through the front, and then reinsert the new capacitors. So I'm going to start with the silver one first because that seems to be the easiest to get to from the back side, and I have more confidence I'm doing the right one. So I'm going to start with that. I'm going to desolder it and then install it. All right, so I was able to get it apart a little bit more, the casing, to get more access to the circuit boards and where the electrolytic capacitors are. So it's a little bit different than what I thought. In any case, I've been able to remove and replace two capacitors already on the main circuit board here, and it's on the other side. I'm going to flip this over off camera so that you can see it. But I've removed, I think it was, let me see which. Gotta find which capacitors these are. I've removed C2 and C4. They're both the same, basically both the same size. So C2 and C4. Okay, so here's the view from the bottom. I've got it flipped upside down. Let's see if I can get to that. So this is capacitor C4 that's been replaced. If I can hold this steady. So it's this one here that I'm pointing at. That's been replaced, and capacitor C2 has also been replaced, and that's this one right here. Now, those two capacitors look like this. So kind of strange in that one is about the right size, the silver one, and the black one is different. So is that important? Well, yeah, it is, but the concept here is you can increase voltage on a capacitor and a minor increase in the capacitance as well. So what we put in was a 4 microfarad 16 volt capacitor. If you're looking at the silver one, which is the original, that one is also a, oh boy, let me see if I can get that better so it's easier to see. Yep, there it is. So it's a 40 microfarad 16 volt, and that's what's on the other one here, 40 microfarad 16 volt. Now this black one has got a smaller voltage marked on it, but it is, let's see if I can get it. Turn this over. This thing is tiny. You're going to have to trust me on this one. I'm going to read it here. It's a 40 microfarad and I think it's a, well, let me put my cheaters on. Yeah, I can't get it on the camera. It's a 40 microfarad 16 volt. So we've increased the voltage by 10 volts on it, but that's an acceptable thing to do. Okay, the next thing I'm going to be going after is on the same circuit board is this CAN capacitor, and there's 3 different electrolytic capacitors inside that can. So I'm working on getting that removed. Now, before I get off of this circuit board here, I do want to indicate that you have to be aware of the polarity of the electrolytic capacitors, and you need to follow the polarity of the original. And the way these are shaped, the positive side of the capacitor is it's got that little loop, or the little indentation on the positive side, and the negative side is the other side. In the case of this black capacitor that I had, which I've now lost, the positive side was the rounded side. So I'm following the polarity, and I'm following the original path of the wiring as well. The other thing I found is to get this stuff out and be able to get the wires out and be able to follow the path. I have to essentially use, wow, why am I not in focus here? Yeah. So I'm using a Dremel tool to get these things and get the holes cleaned up. I'm using it at a slow speed. There it is. Now I'm in focus. Using it at a slow speed to be able to clean up the holes. And I'm trying not to take any of the base material off. So that's what I'm doing. There it is, in focus, following the polarity. Okay. And I'm doing all the soldering on the other side of the board. Okay, here is the replacement CAN capacitor. There are 3 capacitors on the inside of this. There's a 1000 microfarad 16 volt, a 500 microfarad 16 volt, and I think it's a 4 microfarad 11.5 volt. And it's CAN negative, so the CAN itself is grounded. Now you're going to see the square and the triangle in front of this. If you flip it over, the one inside the square here, that is the 1000 microfarad connection, and the one inside the triangle is the 500 microfarad, and the one without anything at all is the 4 microfarad. So I've got to be cognizant of the orientation of this, and when I take the CAN capacitor off, I'll make sure that I understand what that original orientation was so that I don't screw things up. All right, to unsolder the CAN, I had to remove the solder off of the 3 tabs. The tabs are actually the ground, and this CAN is grounded, and it's grounded to, there is a one of the fasteners that holds this circuit board on to the chassis is soldered in place, and that is grounded. So this whole entire CAN is grounded, but I had to remove unsolder the 3 tabs, and then I had to unsolder the three wires around here. But it does come out that way, and that's all you need to unsolder. So to remove the tab, once you have everything unsoldered, you just pull it straight out. And note that, so I got it. So let's see. I've got the square and the rectangle in here, and the square and the rectangle may be different markings on this one versus the other. Let's see. That's weird. This one says 1500, not 1000 microfarads. I don't have the right size can. Gosh darn it. Okay, well, I gotta go back to the drawing board on this one because I've only got a I've only got a 15 or shoot. Okay, anybody want a new can capacitor? I got one for sale. All right, so I got to go back to the drawing board on that one. Yeah. So the Sam's Photofact isn't completely up to date on this. Dang it. Okay. Well, this isn't going to be done today. Okay, so the circuit board with the that's attached to the on-off switch and the volume control has 4 electrolytic capacitors that need to be replaced. The first one is here, and that one is labeled, let's see, that's C5 in my list. And then I've got 2 here, C7 and C8, they're tucked in here. And I've got a 4th one, which is C6. And C6 is located, if I can get the camera lined up, C6 is right behind this other tombstone cap. So what I'm noticing is, just in looking at this, I can replace 2 of these today. The other 2, I don't have the right style of capacitor, so I'm going to have to go back to the drawing board on those 2. So now that I know that I've got some more ordering to do, I'm going to check every single one of these, so I only have to go back to the ordering process once. Okay, the last electrolytic capacitor needs to be replaced is the one on this circuit board here. There's no markings on it, so I'm going to have to assume, so it's the gray one with the white markings. I'm going to have to assume that that is correct. So I'll take my chances. So I've got to order a couple new analytic capacitors. So while I'm waiting for that, we'll go ahead and replace these capacitors. Okay, so this green and gray and white electrical component here in the Sam's Photofact is indicating that this is an electrolytic capacitor. That's not an electrolytic capacitor. So C3, I'm not replacing. I'm going to leave that in there. I have no idea what that is. It looks like just a regular capacitor, I think. I'm not an expert, but so Sam's Photofact has been incorrect in a couple of areas, but you know, it's set up at least for this model. It may be correct for other Chevrolet models, but it just doesn't work for the Corvette, at least the 72 Corvette. Okay, so this is the circuit board that C7 goes onto, and it's on the side of the volume knob here, or the on-off volume knob, and that's going to go in to one of these holes here, and then the other one is, let's see, so one is going to go to the negative side, which is negative for all of the connections, and the other, let's see, the positive side, which looks like that one there. So that's what it's going to hook into. I'm going to put the leads in before I solder it and show you. Okay, the capacitor's been placed in the board. The lead closest to the camera is the positive, and one furthest away is the negative. And this is what it looks like on the other side. So we've got the positive lead where you can see the island here with the positive, and the negative lead goes on this big blob, which is the negative for the entire circuit board. So I'm going to solder those in place and then desolder C8 and do the same thing. This is the difference between new tech and old tech. Here's the electrolytic capacitor. The original is on the left-hand side. The new is on the right. This is for the C7 and C8. So these are 100 microfarad 4 watt capacitors. And you can see why I use the radial versus the axial, because of the short turn that's needed to solder in an axial versus the radial. Okay, there's C7 soldered in. Again, you can see the positive mark on the positive side here, and then on the... So I just need to clip those off. Alright, for the old can capacitor, these are the mounting points. This is the negative for the 1500 microfarad. That's the negative for the 500 microfarad, and that is the negative for the 4 microfarad. So those are the 3 negatives. Actually, they're all negatives. It doesn't matter. They're all connected. I could actually bundle them all together and just solder them in at once, but I'm going to do them separately. This is positive terminal for the 1500, positive for the 500, and positive for the 4 microfarad. So C1A, C1B, C1C. Okay, so I've installed the capacitors in their spots here, and as you can see, I've taken the positive leads for each of them, and I'm trying to find my pointer. There it is. And these wires are connected to a post. Actually, so I can solder them to the terminal, but as you can see, the wire is a lot smaller than the terminal slot, so I could actually just solder them directly to the terminal, which is where it's going in the first place. So I've got 3 terminals. Again, this is the 1500 microfarad C1C, or sorry, C1A. I get focus again. So that's C1A. This is C1C, and this is C1B up here. So what I'm going to do is solder the connections directly to the wire. Okay, there they are. All are soldered in. All right, this is what it looks like from the other side of the board. We've got C1A, C1B, and C1C. All done. So the reassembly is basically just the reverse of the disassembly. In doing this technique, though, I would suggest that you work on the outside first. Make sure you have, hook in the screws, the screws to the circuit board to the outer chassis very loosely first, so that you're not putting any stress on the chassis. Get the outside all buttoned up and bolted together before tightening up the screws on the circuit board. You can adjust the circuit board. There's enough play here to get it, but what you don't want to do is crack the circuit board or break the circuit board. So do that last. And then I'm just going to put the covers on, and then I'm going to stick it into the car and do a quick test to see if it's working. All right, here's the test. I've got less, it's working, it's sounding better on the channels I get.
This Christian woman to declare his good news.
So it sounds much better, less interference, but I'm not getting much on the dial here. So I think I made an improvement, but I've also caused something else. So I probably have some adjustments to make, and I've got a little bit more learning to do. So if anybody's got some suggestions, I appreciate your suggestions. Also, I made the AM side bad as well. Watch, listen. Yeah, that's not good. And it's all on the entire dial. So I may have installed something backwards or in the wrong spot, but I'll work it. I'll take a look and figure it out. If it was easy, anybody could do it, right?